Okay, that is our sign. We are live. It's 6 p.m. Welcome this evening. We are so thrilled you're here. And our tonight's topic is how to pay for college. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed and a little confused, you are not alone. Many of us feel that way. I'm hoping by the end of this hour that you will feel a little bit more like you have a grasp of how this all works. So let's get started tonight. We encourage you to ask questions. We're going to use the Q&A feature in your toolbox or your dashboard for Zoom. I know a lot of you are probably used to using chat, but we would appreciate you putting your questions in the Q&A, and that way, as we answer them, other folks can see your questions and your answers. I have a couple of colleagues on the call with me today, Jenny Johnson, who's our outreach manager, and Naftali Cabrelis, who's our outreach coordinator. They're going to be working on answering some of your questions behind the scenes. So you don't have to wait until the end. You can drop those in anytime. We look forward to helping get your questions answered. As you heard, we are recording this session. We will post it on the CFNC YouTube page in probably a few days. So if you want to go back to it, or if you want to share it with others, we encourage you to do that. And finally, if there's things that you're learning that you think other friends would love to know, share it on your favorite social media channels. Use the hashtag CFNC so we can find you. Now, I am Kathy Hastings. I'm the Director of Outreach and Communications for the North Carolina State Education Assistance Authority. And I'm going to be walking you through all of the various ways to pay for college. Well, not all, but a lot of them, so that hopefully tonight you walk away with some new ideas that maybe you hadn't heard of. But let's start our first poll. Let's see if I can put my hands on the poll. Otherwise, I may ask Jenny or Naftali to jump in. There's my polls. Okay, so let's start with who's joining us tonight. Are you a high school student, a college student, a parent or guardian, an education professional, or maybe other? Right, get lots of folks answering tonight. That's great to see. We love to have you involved. I will be giving you opportunities to kind of check your progress along the way. Okay, I think we've got our answers. We have lots of parents and guardians joining us tonight, a few high school students and some education professionals. So great, that's really helpful to see. So we make sure we know whose questions we're answering and the types of information you may be looking for. So thanks for joining in, folks. We appreciate that. Okay, let's get started. Now, for some of you, you may or may not be familiar with the North Carolina State Education Assistance Authority. We are the state agency that helps North Carolina pay for their education, and we are a proud supporter of the CFNC website, the College Foundation of North Carolina, which helps, it's a free service provided by the state that helps you plan, apply, and pay for college. If you haven't already been to the CFNC website, I encourage you to do so. There's lots and lots of great information there on all the steps you need to take to prepare for college. Now, very briefly, I think it's always helpful to do a little context setting of why are we talking about this and why is it important. What we have seen is research is showing by as early as 2025, 2 out of every 3 new jobs will require some form of education beyond high school, which is part of why it's important to continue your education if you're able. And the other important thing is we keep seeing that education pays. On average, the more you learn, the more you earn. So that's the left side of your screen. As you see, as you go up in education level, on average, your earnings go up. But what a lot of people don't talk about is the right side of your screen, which is the more education you have, the less likely you are to become unemployed or remain so. So for those of you who are looking to get a good job that helps you take care of yourself and your family, this is one of those ways to do it. And it's part of why education can be so helpful towards your future. Now, let's start by talking about the three main ways to pay for college, because again, a lot of times financial aid can feel opaque. This whole big funding landscape can feel a little overwhelming. So let's try to break that down a little bit. Okay, so there are three main ways to pay for college. The first is family funds. We're going to go into more detail in each of these. So I'm just going to give you the overview first. The first is family funds. The second is financial aid. And the third is what we call gap funding. So that helps close the gap between what your family can afford, what financial aid offers, and the total cost of going to college. So let's start with family funds. Most of you have a sense of your own family resources, but let's do a helpful quick review just in case there's some things that you might not have thought of. You don't want to leave any stone unturned. So when we talk about family funds, part of what we're talking about is savings. These can be things like savings accounts, investment accounts. One of the pro tips we like to share is some of you may have cash value in a life insurance policy, and many people don't know that you can either take some of that money out or you can borrow against it. And so that's another source that you may not have thought of, but it can be used like savings towards your college degree. Next is wages. So that could be parents or guardians, or it could be the students themselves. Gifts, and that could be from grandparents or aunts and uncles or mentors. And finally, personal loans. These are ones that are outside of the financial aid system. They might be something you would go to if you have a relationship with the local bank, or there are other national lending sources. Okay, so now let's jump into financial aid. We're going to spend the majority of our time here tonight just because that tends to be the bulk of where funding comes from for college. And we're going to try to break that down for you so it gets a little less confusing. Now let's do a quick pulse check of your knowledge. For financial aid, is financial aid only available at the federal level? Is that true or false? So let's go ahead and launch that poll. What do you think? Getting lots of votes here. I love to see that. So coming in fast. Okay. Starting to slow down here. All right. Great job, everyone. You are absolutely right. That is false. Financial aid is available at the federal level, the state level, and at the college level. And again, we'll talk about each of those in a little more detail. So federal, state, and college. One form, FAFSA, will allow you to be considered for financial aid at all three levels. Now, sometimes I get students and families who say, I'm not going to qualify for financial aid, or that it's only for households with really low income. But 4 out of 5 college students receive some form of financial aid, which means the vast majority of them, 85.2% back in 2021, used some forms of financial aid to help them pay for college, which is why even if you don't think you qualify for financial aid, it's still important to apply for it because you just don't know. And how do you access that aid? In a word, FAFSA. If you haven't heard that term before, that stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. We call it FAFSA for short because that's a mouthful. But this one form will allow you to be considered for financial aid at all 3 levels. Now, there are some types of aid that, that you don't use the FAFSA for, so I'll point those out. And the other thing I want to make sure, because I know we have different audiences here, a lot of the financial aid we'll talk about is available to adult learners as well, although there are certain types of aid that are specifically or particularly helpful for adult learners, so I'll call those out. And I know some folks are asking about aid if you're planning to attend an out-of-state institution. And again, many of the forms of aid that we're going to talk about tonight will apply for that. So I'll point those out as well. One of the few places that is less helpful if you're going out of state is some of the state-specific aid, but most of the other sources, you might find something comparable in the other state you're planning to attend. Okay, so let's talk about the three main types of federal financial aid. There's grants and scholarships. These do not need to be paid back. So we like to think of these as free money for that reason. And we usually try to focus on grants and scholarships first for that reason, because it's money that based on need or merit, you can qualify for these and you don't have to pay them back. Next up is federal work study. Those are called Earn While You Learn programs. That's where you can get a job on a college campus or nearby, and that allows you to earn money while you're earning your education. And the last main way through the federal financial aid is loans. These do need to be paid back. So you only want to take out what you need. But the other important thing to know here is you're not required to accept them. So if you get a financial aid award package from your college or university and it includes loans, and if you don't want to accept those loans, you don't have to. You can turn any pieces of financial aid that's offered to you down. The important thing to know, though, is in 2021, North Carolina high school seniors left an estimated $126 million in unclaimed Pell Grants on the table. Again, remember, grants are money that doesn't need to be paid back simply by not completing the FAFSA. That's money these students would have qualified for, but they didn't complete the form, and so they didn't access that aid. So don't be one of those students. Make sure you complete your FAFSA. The form is opening up a little late this year. It's going to open up in December because they're doing a major update to the form. So as soon as that is available to you, we'll make sure that you know about it. I do recommend, there is some aid that's on a first come, first serve basis. So I do encourage you to get your FAFSA done no later than March, so that you make sure you qualify for all the aid that you are eligible for. Okay, so let's start with federal financial aid. Again, most of it requires a FAFSA, but there's a few places where it doesn't, and I'll point that out. We're not going to have time, because we're covering a lot of material tonight. We're not going to go into significant detail on all these different sources. But in most cases, I will share where to go for more information, which is usually your financial aid office at the college or university you're planning to attend. Okay, so as I said, the three main types of federal aid are the Pell Grant, federal work study, and loans. There are a few others. One of the pro tips we encourage you to do is when you're filling out the FAFSA, I believe there's a question on there, at least there used to be a question on there asking you if you want to be considered for federal work study. Even if you don't know yet whether you want to or not, we always encourage you to go ahead and say yes, because you always want to keep your options open. So if when that application opens up, we encourage you to accept that. Now, the important thing to know is for the types of aid where FAFSA is the application to gain access, you don't need to ask about these specific types of aid. You fill out the FAFSA, and then your financial aid office will let you know what you qualify for. Beyond grants and federal work study, there are several types of loans that are available through the federal government: subsidized, unsubsidized, and Parent Plus. I know sometimes we get questions on loans, and so we're going to do a separate session on loans in February. So if you want some more information on that, just keep checking back to the CFNC website, and when that becomes available, go ahead and register. Okay, now I know a lot of students and families are worried about loans. I hear you. The good news is the use of loans is on a 10-year decline. So the important thing to know, as I mentioned, is if loans are packaged in your financial aid package, there's no requirement for you to accept loans. You are in control of what you accept or don't accept to help you pay for college. And a lot of students are looking for ways to go to college without taking on loans. So that's why it's on this long 10-year decline. If you do need to take out some loans to close the gap, only take out what you need. The other important thing that's helpful to understand is what type of career are you planning on going into? So if you're going to become a doctor, you may need a loan that can help you afford paying for all of the college you'll need to become a doctor. But if you're going to be going into a lower wage field, you might not want to take out loans so that you don't have to worry about paying those back later. Okay, let's go ahead and check your progress again. Now, once you apply for financial aid, must you accept the entire financial aid package? Is that true or false? Got lots of votes here. Good job, everyone. All right. Oh, we still have votes coming in. Okay, I think we've got enough here. Great job. You are absolutely right. You are not expected to accept all of the aid that is offered to you. If there's loans or other pieces of aid that you're not interested in, you can simply decline them. Okay, let's go on to what are called education training vouchers. These are specifically for students who have experienced the foster care system. They are eligible for up to $5,000 per year for up to 5 years until age 26, or they earn their first bachelor's degree. This is funding that is limited. It is on a first come, first served basis, and you must complete a FAFSA to qualify. So if you or someone you know may be eligible, they should contact or go on the ncreach.org website and they can get more information. There's more details about how to qualify. And then 3 additional sources of aid at the federal level are the GI Bill education benefits, tax credits, and WIOA. All of these forms can be helpful, particularly for adult learners. They aren't dependent directly on FAFSA, although I think for the GI Bill, they still want you to complete it. Now, GI Bill education benefits are designed to help active duty service members and or veterans. One of the things to keep in mind is if a parent doesn't need all of their GI Bill education benefits, they can transfer up to 36 months of unused credit towards a spouse or a dependent child. So if you have a family member who might have an unused GI Bill education benefits, or if you're an adult learner and you'd like to go back to college, this is one of those ways you can help pay for it. Check with the Veterans Administration on eligibility, and you can get more information on transferring that benefit should you choose to. Okay, next up is education tax credits. A lot of folks don't know these exist. I believe on the new FAFSA, they do share information about the American Opportunity Tax Credit. Both of these tax credits are available to everyone. Again, adult earners in particular might be interested in these because they might not have thought to look for these. You will have to fill out some additional forms on your with your tax return in order to qualify, but the amount of money you can receive can be substantial, so it's worth filling them out. The American Opportunity Tax Credit offers $2,500 per year per child for up to 4 years. So if you have 2 students in college, which I did at one point, that's $5,000 that you can take off that's a credit against your tax return. Now, the downside is this doesn't provide you money up front. You would need to pay tuition, but when you file your taxes, you get it back as a credit, which means the following year, that's money you can redeploy to pay for the next year's tuition. Most families want to start with the American Opportunity Tax Credit. If you do exhaust those funds or you earn a bachelor's degree, there is another tax credit called the Lifetime Learning Tax Credit. That's $2,000 per year per tax return. So if you have multiple people in school, including yourself, it's not per person, it's for the entire family, but it's still $2,000 that can save you. And again, that can be money that can be redeployed in the following year when you're looking to continue your education. American Opportunity Tax Credit is towards your, I believe, your first bachelor's degree, but the lifetime learning credit can be used for anything. So if you're enhancing your skills for work, you can use that lifetime learning credit for that as well. Next up is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which I know is a mouthful. That is federal that's federal dollars that help focus on adult learners who need to reskill and for out of school youth. It the NC Works, the career local career centers are the site where you can go for more information to see if you qualify, but they are specifically there to help you finish a credential. The nice thing about those NC Works career centers is they can also help you do things like prepare a resume, prepare for a job interview, and it can help you with job searches and other forms of career guidance and support. Okay, let's check your experience again. Check your progress here. Which types of aid need to be paid back? Is it grants, loans, scholarships, or federal work study? A smart bunch. Look at that. Okay, there's no fooling. No fooling you all. You are absolutely right. It's loans. Loans need to be paid back. Grants and scholarships do not. So those are important distinctions when you see your financial aid package. You can decide, there's no requirement to take those loans. You can decide to decline those if you wish. Okay, let's move to state financial aid. The North Carolina is very committed to trying to help students make the cost of college more manageable. And so they have lots of ways to help. There are two main ways that the state helps, and that is number one, to reduce the cost of college upfront. And number two is to provide need-based grants and scholarships to help you pay for the remaining cost. Now, North Carolina has hundreds of millions of dollars available each year to help students who need assistance. And again, remember, grants and scholarships don't need to be paid back. So look for those funds first. So at the state level, fill out the FAFSA. The same application will allow you to be considered for state aid. You don't have to fill out a separate form to be qualified. You do need to be a North Carolina resident for the purposes of in-state tuition, for example, and we'll talk a little bit more about how you go about determining that. So the very first and probably one of the best cost savings around is in-state versus out-of-state tuition. Just like most, if not all other states, North Carolina wants to see their own students succeed. So if you go to an in-state institution, there's significant savings in terms of the cost of college. College Board did a study and they estimated that on average, and so this is not North Carolina specific, this is all across the country, on average an in-state four-year college degree versus out of state, you can save over $17,000. That's a lot of money. So unless you have a really specific reason to go out of state, we have a lot of great colleges and universities here. People are trying to come here from all across the country. And so you part of how you demonstrate residency, what's called residency, which is you've lived here for a year or more, is through the North Carolina Residency Determination Service. That ncresidency.org website is where you will go about filling out that or go through that process, and that way you can demonstrate that you're a North Carolina state resident for the purposes of in-state tuition. Huge savings, definitely worth the time. Okay, next up is earning college credit while you're still in high school. This is a great way to save because you don't have to pay for that college credit. So that can be things like AP classes, IB, Cambridge, or dual enrollment. You can earn credit while you're still in high school. In most cases, that credit is for free. Now, keep in mind that not all colleges accept early college credit, but the College Board reports that 2,900 institutions do so now. So check with the admissions office of the institution that you're planning to attend to see whether they will accept early college credit. Next up are what are called guaranteed transfer or co-admission programs. Many of the North Carolina colleges and universities participating in the state are involved in these co-admissions or guaranteed transfer. They are also often referred to as 2+2, which means you take the first 2 years from your local community college, which saves you time or saves you money. And then you finish up the last 2 years of your degree at the transferring 4-year institution where you earn your 4-year degree. If it's a program that offers co-admissions, that usually means that you're admitted to both the community college and the university at the same time. You have to, make satisfactory academic progress, but you often can take advantage of being visiting the 4-year campus as a community college student. So keep in mind that these pathways are limited to particular colleges and universities. They have relationships with one another, and it may be limited to specific degree programs. So again, talk to your admissions office of the college you're planning to attend to see if a program like this exists. Finally, the North Carolina Promise Tuition Plan offers a more affordable option for attending a 4-year university, if that's your choice. It's available at Western Carolina University, Fayetteville State, Elizabeth City, and at University of North Carolina at Pembroke. The tuition is only $500 per semester for students who qualify for in-state tuition, and or $2,500 per semester for out-of-state. So even if you don't qualify as an in-state student, the $2,500 cap is still more manageable than tuition and fees often are at many institutions. So this can equate to a savings of at least $10,000 over 4 years of attendance, really substantial. Now, keep in mind that in addition to tuition, there are other costs to going to college. That can be things like housing, food, transportation, books, and some of those other types of fees, but at least you can get the substantial savings to the tuition itself. Now, we're doing a follow-up session next week on scholarships. So you're going to hear more about the state scholarships then, but I do just want to touch on it in case you can't join us next week. The state does offer over $180 million in state grants and scholarships for that are need-based to attend either a North Carolina public college or university or a private college in North Carolina. You do need to complete a FAFSA to be considered, and the funding is on a first-come, first-served basis. So you want to make sure you get your application in early so that you can qualify. You do need to be a resident for the purposes of in-state tuition. It is for an undergraduate degree for those who don't currently have a bachelor's degree. You do have to meet the college or university's what they call satisfactory academic progress, and your college admissions folks can help you understand what that is at that institution. And then you want to, and then you need to meet Pell eligibility criteria. And again, more information on that next week. But that just gives you an idea that there's quite a bit of funds in the state itself that is available to help you make college more affordable. Next up is the NC 529. It's a tax advantage savings program and investment program. We often think of 529 plans in terms of paying for college, which is obviously what we're talking about tonight. But the nice thing is you can use the what you save in these funds for not just college, but also for K through 12 tuition. You can use it for yourself, for a child, for a grandchild, or any future student. And the funds can be used for a wide variety of things, not just tuition and fees, but books, room and board, a computer. If you're considering a career in trade school, it can help with some of those expenses. Sometimes there's expenses associated with an apprenticeship program. You can use these funds for that. As I mentioned, K through 12 tuition, that's up to $10,000 per year per child. If your student has a disability where they need assistive devices, you can use it for that. And it can also be used to pay off student loans. Speaking of loans, the state also offers NC Assist loans, which is an educational loan. So we talked earlier that you can, loans are available at the federal level. They're also available at the state. So if you don't qualify for the federal level, you might qualify for the NC Assist loans. It is a fixed rate. There's no origination, application, or other fees. And so if you're looking for more information on that, go to ncassist.cfnc.org for more information. Again, pro tip, just remember when taking out loans, should you choose to, only borrow what you need. Whoops, sorry, blew past stuff here. Got a little excited with my mouse there. Okay, let's get back to checking your progress here. Okay, so the state supports. How does the state of North Carolina help you save on the cost of college? In-state tuition, earning college credit while you're still in high school, attending college at an NC Promise institution, state need-based grants and scholarships, or all of the above. Get your vote in. This is a smart bunch tonight. I love it when folks are really understanding and absorbing the information we're sharing. Okay, why don't we go ahead and share that one. Great job, everyone. Yes, all of those are ways that the state is making different types of funds and opportunities available to you to help make paying for college a little more manageable. Okay, great job. Let's keep going here. Okay, now we're going to turn to college-based financial aid. It can be wild that it's like Oprah, there keeps being more that we can look to. So let's start talking about what types of aid is available at the college level. The colleges and universities themselves also have financial aid available. Some of it is based on financial need, just like what the state offers, but some of it, and that's determined through the FAFSA, some of it is in recognition of your special talents, which is called merit-based aid. That can be things like athletic scholarships, ones for exceptional academic performance, or areas, if you have a particular talent in music or art or science, or it can really be for all kinds of things. And this is true for North Carolina higher education institutions as well as those in other states. So I know some folks are planning to apply to schools in other states. Check with your college or university. They probably have scholarships available as well. Most of them do fundraising specifically for that purpose. So if you're planning to go out of state, just check with them. Okay, I know this chart's kind of messy, so bear with me. If you look all the way to the right, that big long column, what that shows to you is each year how much funding comes from different sources. So the net takeaway I want you to take away from this slide is colleges and universities are the largest sources of aid. That's that darker blue part of the last column. As the usage of loans, which is the darker gray, as the usage of loans has gone down over the last 10 years, you'll see that the darker blue section of that bar has gone up, and that's aid that's at the actual institutions themselves. So we do get some families who think, I'm not going to qualify for Pell Grant, so it's not worth filling out financial aid. Here's why you should still fill out the FAFSA, at least the first year, because you don't know what you qualify for. There may be other types of aid at the institution. Sometimes at a college or university, they might have a scholarship that might be partial merit, partial need. So it might not be where you need to qualify for a Pell Grant, for instance, but it might be part on your talent and part on maybe there's some gap funding that you need. This is just another way to slice it. It's looking at just grant information from the various sources, because again, we always love grants and scholarships. They don't need to be paid back. So we look to those funds first. If you look at the light orange color, that shows you that's the institutional or the college, the grants and scholarships that come from the college itself. The vast majority of it is through the institution. So again, always important to fill out your FAFSA to see if you qualify for that. Okay, so let's do another poll. Completing a FAFSA gives a student the opportunity to access financial aid at which level? Is it the federal level, state level, college level, all of the above, or only A and B? Answers are coming in quick here. Very good. Down. All right, great. Let's go ahead and share that. Great job. That is right. All of the above, federal, state, and college level. One form, FAFSA. It's going to open in December. We don't have a specific date for you yet, but we will let you know as soon as we know, you'll know. But it allows you to be considered for financial aid at all three levels. So it takes a little bit of time, anywhere from about a half hour to an hour to fill it out, but it's worth it because it gives you the opportunity to be considered for all of that financial aid. Okay, great job, folks. Okay, on to source number 3. The third main way to pay for college is gap funding. So there's the total cost of going, what's called cost of attendance of going to college, which includes tuition and fees, books, transportation, all of the above. And there's your family funds and there's financial aid. And sometimes those two combined don't quite get you to that total cost of attendance. So sometimes you can look to reduce your costs. That's one way. But sometimes you may be looking for some gap funding. And that's where, looking to some of these next sources can be helpful. When we're talking about gap funding, there's 3 main sources there, although there are others, but we're going to talk about the 3 main ones tonight. The first is scholarships through things like your community. Again, you're going to learn more about that next week, but I want to make sure you get a little bit of it tonight. The next source is employer education benefits, and the last is college credit through exams. So first up is those community scholarships. I'm always a big fan of looking local. The CFNC.org website has a scholarship portal on there. Those are scholarships that are exclusively for North Carolina students. So I always encourage to start there. Next up is the North Carolina Community Foundation website. They also have a scholarship portal that gives you access to potentially 150 different scholarships that support students in different communities throughout the state. Next up is community and civic organizations. So that could be things like Rotary or other sources. The other kind of pro tip I like to tell people that folks don't often think to look for is local chapters of professional associations. So for instance, if you're thinking about studying marketing, for instance, you could look to the local chapter of the American Marketing Association, which is a professional association. oftentimes those professional associations will offer a scholarship for a student in their local community. Again, not a lot of people know to look there, so that's a great place to start. And then finally, education foundations. These, I'm not sure these exist in every county, so you'll need to check locally. But many education foundations are designed to help students specifically going to that school district. And they often offer scholarships, so check those out as well. Okay, employer education assistance programs are an important employee benefit that many companies offer. One study that we saw found that 56% of employers offer education assistance benefits, and there's a few different forms that these can take. The first is tuition reimbursement. So that's where you pay your tuition upfront and then you get reimbursed on the back end. Sometimes there's some requirements that go with that. You may need to achieve a certain grade, like an A or a B, in order to be reimbursed. They may encourage you to stay with the organization for a period of time, but this is a really great and important source of assistance, particularly for adult learners, but there's programs for high schoolers who are transitioning to college as well. The tuition assistance is similar, but instead of you paying for your tuition up front and then they reimburse you, the employer has a relationship with one or more colleges or universities, and they you register for school and they pay the tuition directly to that institution. So I know Starbucks had I don't know if they still do, but they had a relationship with, I believe it was Arizona State University. Some of the larger employers do that. So you don't have as many choices as to where you go, but you also don't have to come up with the tuition money up front. It's not a lot, but some employers are now starting to offer student loan repayment assistance. The last I saw is it was about 8% of employers, because they know students new employees are looking for that benefit, and that younger workers favor that benefit over a 401k retirement plan. So that's another option. And then finally, many employers now are starting to offer 529 college savings plans that are offered through the employer, and that allows them to transfer money directly from your paycheck into the savings through a payroll deduction, which makes it a little easier for folks to save money. The last option we're going to talk about tonight in terms of gap funding is what we call college credit through exam. So if you're still in high school, you can earn college credit through AP or IB, as we talked about earlier. But both high school students and adult learners can earn college credit through what's called CLEP, which is the College Board's college level examination program. You see the website on your screen, so if you want to get more information, you can. So similar to a high schooler passing an AP exam, that same high schooler or an adult learner could pass an exam through CLEP. Now, the really great thing is Modern States, and you see the website there, offers free prep classes. So let's say you want to take an AP history class, for instance. You may say, I'm not sure I remember enough of AP history in order to be successful on that exam. You can take a free online prep class through Modern States to prepare for that exam. And the nice thing is if you complete your coursework and the practice questions through their website, they'll give you a voucher so that you can take the exam for free. So not only can you earn college credit, but you also can have the fee that's associated with taking that exam waived. Now, not all colleges and universities accept exam credit, so just check with your admissions office before you head down this path. Some are quite generous. I know a lot of times private colleges and universities are willing to accept that. So it's worth asking, and if so, maybe over the summer or when you have a little bit of downtime, this is a great option for adult learners where they can earn some credit. Go on that Modern States website, get a little support, and then take the exam for free. Okay, I think this is our last poll question, your last chance we can check your progress. What are sources of gap funding, community scholarships, employer education benefits, college credit through exams, all of the above, or only B and C? What do you think, folks? Okay, last chance to vote here. Okay, good job, folks. All of the above. Those are the three sources we just talked about: community college, community scholarships, employer education benefits, and college credit through exams. Great job, folks. Proud of you. Okay, so we're getting ready to wrap up here. Hopefully you saw at least one option you hadn't thought of that can help you as you think about building your plan for paying for your education. Hopefully you got at least one new idea. Now, before we get to Q&A, I'm going to share 2 more pro tips for you. The first up is know yourself. It's really common for students to get into college and change their major. About 1/3 of college students do. And I'm not saying don't do it. If you start college and you start down one major and you find another one is a better fit, by all means, go ahead and change. But the thing to keep in mind is sometimes that can cost you more money because it may require additional classes. Even if you're changing majors at the same university, if you move from the College of Business, for instance, into the College of Arts and Sciences, you may have to take additional credits to meet the graduation requirement of the new major. So one of the things that we recommend to reduce the chance of or the likelihood of needing to transfer from one degree to another is to take some of the assessments that's on the CFNC website, where you can learn more about yourself and the careers that play to your strengths. You can see an example of the screen grab. There's several different assessment tools on the website, and it's under the Learn About Yourself section of the website. You can see the URL down there at the bottom. That way, hopefully you can choose a major in a career field that's a good fit for you right from the start. The final pro tip I'm going to share with you tonight is you're putting a lot of money towards your education. The data shows it's a good investment when you think of your entire career, that education will pay off. However, the important thing is know what you're getting when you're choosing a college. I always encourage students, you can do some exploration of different colleges and programs on the CFNC website. There's some additional tools on the college scorecard, which again, you can see the URL at the bottom of your screen. It's a .ed.gov URL. On this website, it not only lets you check out majors and programs, but it shows you how many students graduate, what is the average debt they owe, and what's the average monthly payment of that debt. You want to make sure you're making a good choice. So let me give you an example. I just took some screen grabs I went on the website and I looked up NC State University, which is here in Raleigh. As you can see, 82% of the students graduate, which is great. The average annual cost is about $16,000. And when you look at the bar towards the bottom, it's showing that it's on the more affordable side. And then it also tells you about the median earnings. So on average, what are students earning when they're graduating from that institution? You can go a little further into the page and begin to look at things like what % of those students are taking out a federal loan, for instance. So in the example of NC State, it's about 40%. So a little more than a third of the students are taking out a loan. The median total debt after graduation for those students is on average about $20,000. And the typical monthly loan payment is about just a little over $200. So that gives you a sense of, is this an institution where there's a high graduation rate, which there is in this example? If students are taking out a loan, how many? And in this case, it's less than half. And typically, what's the monthly loan payment? So I can get a sense of, do I think this is something that I can afford? So just to briefly recap, 3 main ways to pay for college: family funds, financial aid at the federal, state, and college level, and gap funding. When the FAFSA is one of the most important steps you can take to prepare to see what types of aid are available to you. Again, you're not required to take anything you don't want to take. FAFSA is simply an information tool that allows you to get a sense of what you qualify for. So when you're thinking about mapping out your plan, there's 3 steps to take. The first is to assess what funds do we have in our family to help you pay for college, complete the FAFSA to learn which financial aid is available to you. And then finally, if there's still a gap there, what are some other places you can look? So that's where scholarships and employer education benefits or credit through exams could be helpful. Now, we're going to open up for questions in a second, but I wanted to remind you all that we do have a session next Thursday from 6 to 7. So a week from Thursday, on November 2nd, we're offering a scholarships Ask the Experts panel. That's from 6 to 7 p.m. We're going to actually have a student on that panel who's going to share about their experience finding and earning scholarships. We're also, with FAFSA opening up in December, in January, we're going to offer another webinar on walking you through step-by-step completing the FAFSA. I don't have a date yet for that, so stay tuned. We will make sure we get that out to you. And with that, I am going to stop sharing and check in with my team to see if there's any questions we want to answer live or that we think other folks would like to know. Jenny, Naphtali, April, anybody?
Kathy, I know that we will be posting the recording to YouTube. Will we also send a PDF of the slides?
That's right. Yep. So folks who want to refer back to information, we'll make sure we send that out to everyone who registered for tonight. What else is on people's minds? Any other questions?
Yeah, we have a couple questions. Give me just a minute while I try to get these folks. Got some questions here. Give me just a second.
No worries. If you haven't already checked out the CFNC YouTube channel, that's where we post a lot of our webinars like this. And we usually post it within a couple of days. There's actually quite a bit of information that's already in the YouTube channel. So if you have a lot of, if you're just starting your journey in terms of understanding this whole process of applying, planning, and paying for college, in addition to the CFNC website, it's also great to go onto the YouTube channel for the CFNC, where you can find additional information.
We have a couple of folks who've raised their hand, and so I'm trying to give them an opportunity to answer their question.
Great. So one of the questions that I see through the Q&A is, will FAFSA only consider custodial parent income like it has in previous years? So this is actually a change to FAFSA this year. They are asking that the parent, if the parents are divorced, the parent who provides the greater financial support for the student is the one who would contribute to the FAFSA. I know that's not always an easy thing to determine, but that is what the federal FSA is requiring this year. Is there a difference between undergraduate and graduate funding? There can be. So I'll, again, especially with grad school, I'm a big fan of looking to those employer benefits. If you can find an employer, so for instance, healthcare is a great example of an industry that is very supportive of you returning to continue your education. So I'm a big fan of looking at those employers who support their employees continuing their education. I know we're trying to get some. Yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, I see a question here from someone asking if you can get financial aid for a 2-year program. And yes, depending on the program. So there are some programs that will allow you to receive financial aid, especially if it's an associate's degree. Some certificate and degree programs, you'll need to check specifically with that 2-year college.
Yeah, great point. And the other, sometimes we get asked about career and technical programs at a community college. So those are a little different than a 2-year program. Pell is available for some of the longer term career and technical programs, but for shorter term ones like certified nursing assistant, for example, that's about 6 weeks. Pell does not apply for shorter term programs like that. But you should still talk to your admissions folks in your financial aid office at that institution, because there might be other forms of support that you can tap into. Any other questions we can ask? Will VA benefits compensation be required to be disclosed for FAFSA? Since it's not, I don't know that. That is a great question. So I'm a big fan of knowing our limits of what we know and what we don't know. The financial aid office is a great place to ask those kinds of questions. So I would encourage you to speak with, if you already have an institution you're planning to attend, reach out to that financial aid office. If you're not sure, you go into contact the local financial aid office at the college or university that's closest to you. If you're not sure what that is, one of the things that I love about the CFNC website, under the pay section, there's actually a financial aid map. So you can look on the map and see what colleges and universities are closest to you, and reach out to them directly. And they're happy to answer your questions on that. So great question, Francisco. Yeah, Stephen's asking about how do you provide the backup support for divorced parents, and which parent provides the greater financial support. So folks, the FAFSA is changing this year. We're all learning a little bit together. You would be a contributor is another one of those new words. You would be a contributor to your students' FAFSA. You would go ahead and fill out based on the questions they answer. The other thing that is helpful with the new FAFSA is they will go pull information directly from your tax return into the FAFSA, so you don't have to worry about transcription errors. So they'll use that information. But if, for instance, you're a school counselor and you're working with a family and they're not sure who makes more money, again, I think that's one of those things we're kind of learning along the way. And as we get more information, we will be sharing that. Because this is a change in how students and families complete a FAFSA, it's still some of that new information that we're still learning. And we'll be sure to share that out with students and families.
There are a couple questions about the December timeline, Kathy, if I could answer those.
Yeah, great.
So the current FAFSA, I know that someone mentioned that they started the FAFSA that's available. And that FAFSA is the 23-24 FAFSA. It's for this current academic year. So a student who would have graduated high school last year and is looking for aid for this current academic year would have filled that out. The FAFSA that a high school senior now needs to complete is the 24-25 FAFSA. That's the FAFSA for their first year of college. And it's that FAFSA that won't be released until December. And so if you mistakenly started a 23-24 FAFSA, don't submit it. And then just wait for that 24-25 FAFSA to be released, and you'll need to submit that FAFSA.
Yeah. So this is what I think gets a little confusing with for all of us is the current school year is 23-24. We're in the fall of 23. High school students are going to graduate in the spring of 24. They're completing next year's FAFSA for when they go to college in the fall. So that's the 24-25 FAFSA. But if you happen to be planning to go to college, like starting over the summer, then you would complete I'm confused, the 23-24 FAFSA. Sorry, see, this is why even I'm confused. And then on your tax return, you're sharing your prior. So that's a whole other thing. So just be thinking about the year that you're attending. That's the FAFSA you're going to fill out. Hopefully that's a little clearer. I know that's kind of a mess. And then Scarlett's asking about when you complete the FAFSA, how will you be notified? You will get a preliminary from the feds. They will tell you what they believe you qualify for at the federal level. It used to be called the student aid report. So if you fill out this year's FAFSA, it'll be called the student aid report. If you fill out next year's FAFSA, which is what you would fill out to go to college in the fall, the name is changing to the FAFSA summary. It's another S. I don't remember.
FAFSA submission.
Thank you. FAFSA, see, I told you a lot of this stuff is changing. The FAFSA submission summary, it'll show you all the answers that you filled out, and it'll also share what they estimate you will qualify for from the federal government. It'll also show you what's called an SAI, or Student Aid Index. That's what the financial aid office at the institution you attend will use to calculate your aid. So not only what you receive at the federal level, but also what you receive at the state and at the college level. And then the college itself will provide, it's called some different things. Sometimes it's called an award letter or an aid package, but you'll get a communication, typically an email. It might be they might actually mail it, that speaks to all the different types of aid that you qualify for. Okay. In the interest of time, I want to make sure I'm being respectful of everyone's time. It's slightly after 7 o'clock. So thanks to those of you who hung out with us a little longer. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.